plans to expand the badger cull in England, and when our chief vet admits there's no evidence yet that killing these protected creatures will halt the spread of bovine TB. 0207 173 5555, the number. Nigel Gibbons said it would be another 4 years before we'll know one way or another, but that hasn't stopped nearly £40 million of our taxes being spent killing 15,000 badgers so far, way below the 100,000 target needed to curb TB. They vaccinate in Wales for a fraction of the cost. 94% of their herds are disease-free compared to 84% here. Are we missing a trick? Well, before the break, Reverend said we've got to curb bovine TB. We need to look at everything from cattle control and vaccination as well as culling. Gemma felt that badgers aren't the only creatures spreading TB. She felt the cull is inhumane, it's costly and ineffective. Donald broadly agreed with that, so it's unnecessary and irrational, and feels there's no scientific evidence to justify it. So what are people saying at home? Hopefully we've got some farmers out there.
We've got Alan on line 3.
Morning, Alan.
Good morning, Matthew. How are you?
I'm very well. Your thoughts on the badger cull and expanding it?
Right, we need to expand it, but we've got to do it in a rational method. If we're going to do vaccination, it only works on animals which have been tested and they haven't got TB. Yeah. So when we do these cage trapping, we should be testing them. If they're clean, vaccinated. If they're not, cull them.
But the cull, according to our chief vet, there's no evidence yet that it works. That evidence may come. So rather than expand a project that doesn't work, may not work, and that is very expensive and also fairly unpopular, should we have some kind of moratorium, a delay, a wait, or maybe look at vaccination? I can't see the logic of spending loads of money on something that isn't proven to work when Wales is spending a fraction of the money on something that does.
There's been contradictory evidence on both sides.
There has.
Mainly because several of these calls have actually been funded by antis. It's worked very well in Ireland, but maybe it hasn't worked well there. It's because we weren't being badgered by antis. The biggest cost has been policing, because of antis shining lasers at shooters is very dangerous.
Well, that's one of the problems, isn't it, Alan? You have to expect that if you go and do something which is hugely unpopular, as lots of people view badgers as a very benign creature, you're going to have protesters. And I knew there were going to be protesters before the first badger was culled.
Well, the biggest hypocrite is Brian May. He culls deers because of TB, but doesn't cull badgers. He's in the Hedgehog Protection Society.
Well, rather than pointing the finger at other people, let's concentrate on the game in hand, isn't it? You were complaining about the protesters, but protesters are part and parcel of culling.
They are protesting, but they're not protesting in a safe manner. It's fair enough you're going to kick it outside a farm, but when you're threatening farmers' livelihoods and families because they are allowing culling on their farm, just because they're losing thousands a year, the average farmer loses around £15,000 more than he is compensated for his last livestock, as well as a heartbreak.
But you're still not. I totally understand that, but you're not grasping the fact that it doesn't matter, because these protesters will be there every time you try and cull badgers.
It's not. They can't be everywhere if they do what the NFU would like them to do. They opened up.
Luckily, the NFU doesn't actually run the country yet, Alan. Lovely talking to you. Let's try another.
We've got Vanessa on line 2.
Vanessa, good morning.
Hello.
Your thoughts on expanding the cull?
It's ridiculous, it's a waste of money and it's ineffective. I'm a wounded badger patroller in Gloucestershire, so I've been patrolling the field for the last 4 years to check on the badgers to see if they're injured and it's inhumane. Right,
but you've got farmers. I mean, it's also, it's a disgrace that so many otherwise healthy cattle are being slaughtered. We've just heard a farmer say that they're £15,000 a year on average worse off, despite the compensation from taxpayers. There are problems with vaccination, it seems.
It was supposed to be a trial for 4 years, and then we get a result at the end of those 4 years. There hasn't been any result.
Well, the chief vet says that's because the trial was too small, which you'd have thought they'd have dealt with before they started the trial.
Yeah, the Krebs trial in 1996 was a much larger trial, and it proved that it was ineffective.
Okay, but as we know, there's trial and contradictory trial.
The farms we visited, very, very few of them were actually cattle farms. Most of them were arable, corn, maize, which the badgers eat the maize, so that's why we think they were doing them there. Also, grouse farms.
Okay, do you think it's possible that we're allowing our human views of black and white stripy creatures and the stories we grew up with as children about little badgers in the woods and their fun adventures that are perhaps blinding us to the potential harm they could be causing?
No, because it's ineffective. Because it's been proven it's ineffective,
What if, Vanessa, in 4 years' time, after this expanded badger cull in 11 new areas, 21 now in total, what if in 4 years' time the science is incontrovertible, culling works? Would you back it then?
I wouldn't be sure because
Well, you just quoted science that says it doesn't work. So if a major study proved that it did, would you change your view? If you believe in science and a dominant study comes through, you'd have to, wouldn't you?
But then we would have to look at other trials as well, like trials of vaccination.
So you'll never be happy.
No, but I mean, to take...
I'm a vegetarian, so I wouldn't think it's cruel anyway.
But to take the point... I mean,
You don't have to be a vegetarian to think something's cruel, by the way, Vanessa.
Even if culling work, I think it's these are the price we pay in living in a in a countryside and celebrating. There will always be compensating things. Yes, farmers maybe have problems with tuberculosis, but what are we going to do? Kill human? I mean, everybody, so many animals spread this. But so I think it's a price worth paying. So if the culling doesn't work, vaccination, we know it works in any case.
In Wales,
but to take your point,
yeah.
even if it didn't work, it's a price worth paying for a diverse wildlife, because this is not our landscape, our country, our earth to own and to control. We have to share it for the next generation.
No, so to say it's not a choice between and or, culling or vaccination. The government has put forward a proposal for vaccination. Money is being set aside for vaccinations around the country to identify badgers who are at risk. If they've already got TB, you can't cure that with vaccination.
I do take
you
the
have to have
point,
both.
yeah.
You can't.
But in Wales, they're not culling,
Yeah.
and their vaccination, their bovine TB rate is a much lower rate than in England, and they're not culling.
But what I would say to that, Matthew, is if Wales has got a system which works really well, then let's look at it.
Well, it has. It's vaccination. They've had it since 2013, and we've been talking about it since 2013. When are you going to look at it? How many years do you need to examine the evidence?
Well, how do they address the point in Wales where you've got badgers who are already contaminated with TB? You can't cure it with vaccination.
No.
I think you've got a system where...
We're not going to
It
solve...
takes time.
But
you're not
also,
gonna solve
you're not going to solve
it
it all.
fully.
You manage the problem. So it doesn't mean that you kill off these beautiful creatures that don't have to be killed. There is a price worth paying. We're not going to eradicate every illness, every...
But also, in New Zealand, in Australia, they've done a combination of different schemes to look at this. So let's look at what they've done. In Germany, they've culled 60,000 bucks last time. No, but what I would say, it's good practice.
There's more
whether it's
data
Wales.
out there.
Let's look at data and strategy.
Okay. Always a controversial subject. After the break, it's going on with all the other headlines.